flying over the Namib Desert, one of the oldest and meanest in the world. A roasting 31,000 square mile cauldron where temperatures can reach a scorching 120 degrees. I'm on the way to the start of my challenge, the infamous Skeleton Coast. Thousands have been shipwrecked here, victims of the powerful currents, treacherous rocks and blinding fog.
Shipwrecked sailors used to call this coast the gates of hell, and hundreds of ships have been wrecked and thousands of sailors have lost their lives on this shore. That's where I'm going, into those gates of hell.
Like all those shipwrecked sailors, I'm going to be coming ashore the hard way. I'm flying outside the shore break at 60 foot. I'm carrying a few basic survival tools and my camera crew is coming with me. I've got to get ashore before the current sweeps me out to sea, where I could either drown or be eaten by tiger sharks.
There's quite a pull of an undercurrent here, and I'm just using this day sack to help me float, and I'm going to need it when we get into these breakers.
You can't fight the sea. To survive, swim parallel to the shore. Stay calm and angle your way into the beach.
You alright?
The waves are deceptively powerful and there are vicious currents.
That's hard work.
If the sea didn't kill shipwrecked sailors, this barren landscape did.
When you're soaking wet, it's always tempting just to strip off to get your clothes dry. But actually, in this wind, they're going to dry quicker on you. Even with this cloud cover, probably over 100 degrees out here. And if you take your clothes off, you're just going to end up sunburned.
The sweat on your skin dries in seconds, and your first enemy is dehydration. There's not a drop of fresh water here, and in this kind of place, you need at least 15 litres a day if you're gonna stay alive. The Skeleton Coast is one big graveyard, stretching more than 900 miles. I once heard that the headless skeletons of 12 adults and 1 child were found here. They'd lain buried in the sand for 80 years. And there are the remnants of more than 1,000 ships.
You know, there's shipwrecks like this all the way along the coast. And the reality, you know, if you're a sailor coming ashore here, your chances of survival are basically zero. But look, you can tell this is obviously quite a modern one. It's got an engine, even some fishing nets here, look. And you know, survival is all about ingenuity. And if you come across this sort of stuff, you know, even an old bit of rope like that, you want to use it. You never know when that might come in handy.
You've got to scour the beach for anything that can help you make it out of here alive.
See, this is the high tide mark where the sand meets all of these rocks, and this is where all the debris is going to get washed up. Little old bits of timber like this. Looks like an old, probably an old seal bone. It's even an old rubbish bag, look.
Just a bit of plastic, but it could be a lifesaver. But when you're foraging, always be wary.
Hey, look, yeah. That's why you want to be careful, look, when you're kicking things over. See this little fella?
A scorpion like this with a large tail and small pincers means trouble. One sting, and that could be a death sentence.
I'll take his stinger off. He's now edible.
Getting something to drink is crucial, so I'm going to use the seal bone I found to make a solar still.
Surviving out here is really all about sun and water. You know, staying out of one and finding the other. The problem is, there is plenty of water here, but none that you can drink.
My still is a survival technique which mimics the way nature makes rain.
And what I do is dig a pit like this, and just take this rubbish bag, and then just get some pebbles to weight it down with.
Now I need some seawater, but however thirsty you are, never risk drinking it. For every sip you have, you'll just want more. Second World War survivors told us soldiers who'd given in to temptation. Within 2 hours they were delirious and frothing at the mouth. Loss of consciousness is the next step, and ultimately death.
And really you want to fill this up with as much liquid as you can find. If you haven't got any seawater to put in, you can just pee in it. And the idea is, as all of this heats up, the water in it, from the salt water, from the pee, begins to evaporate, and then as it hits the plastic, it condenses and drips into this mug. Place a stone in the middle, and then you want to seal the edges really tight, so none of that evaporating water escapes.
In strong sun, the still could be saturated within 2 hours, and you might get just under a litre of water a day. But this sea mist could thwart me. Now I want to find food, and there's no shortage of mussels.
There are absolutely masses of them. Well, at least I'm not going to starve tonight. I'm going to have to be quick here. The tide's coming back in.
Mussels are packed with protein, but raw, they're full of harmful bacteria. And food poisoning out here would kill you. There's no water to keep you hydrated, so your brain, kidneys and heart will pack in. But I can't cook them yet. There's only about an hour of daylight left, so I must set up camp for the night.
I'm losing the light really fast now, and I'm also wet, and it's going to get really cold.
The rocks will be like radiators, having baked in the sun all day. I just need to make a windbreak out of driftwood to protect me from the chill of the night winds. One last thing, a fire for warmth. At night the temperature can drop by 60 degrees.
Come on, go out. Okay, the good thing about this beach is there's just been massive driftwood around, but it's been a real battle getting this going. I thought it would go straight up because it's all so dead, but it's actually just kind of like impregnated with salt water, so the moisture in it has actually made it quite hard work. But it's going, and I'm slowly drying out. And look, see, I've got all of these nice embers to cook these mussels on. Okay, let's have a look at this fella. And that looks beautiful.
That set me up for the night, and I'm ready for some tough challenges ahead.
When the sun comes up, I'm going to be heading inland into the desert. If I'm honest, I'm a little bit nervous just about what lies ahead there. But I know the real battle is going to be for water.
And in the quest for water, I come face to face with a killer.
Okay, this is a puff adder, and these are one of the most dangerous snakes in all of Africa.
I've spent the night on Namibia's notorious skeleton coast, but it's just the beginning. I'm going to show how to get out alive from one of the meanest places in West Africa. The biggest killer out here is dehydration. It's early morning and the temperature's already heading towards the hundreds. Your body can lose 15 litres a day. Here on the coast, There's not a drop of fresh water. I need to see if my solar stills worked.
You know, really, I'd be wanting to set loads of these to get enough water to drink. But also, this starts to work when it gets really hot in the day, and then the evaporation really takes place. But we'll see what we get. Actually, do you know what? It's not a bottle full, but it's better than I imagined. It's almost an inch of water there. See what it tastes like. Amazing, you know? Get good fresh water out of that. But really, you know, I don't want to spend all day waiting for this to work and this to fill up more. You know, I could lose 2 litres of fluid just sitting here waiting. So I'm going to cut my losses, head inland and see if I can find a proper supply of water somewhere.
I've spotted something that might help me.
Look, you can see there are tracks around here. And these are probably jackal tracks. You can actually see the mark where the claws go in. You know, if it's a cat, it'll always retract its claws. And also, jackals will move in pairs, 2 sets of tracks. And look, right in front of each other, that's how they move, very stealthily. You know, I must have slept well, because I didn't even hear these.
Animals mean life, but the jackals here have adapted to live on very little water. I can't. I'm going to head inland, get some height, and see if I can find anywhere I might be able to get a drink.
Look, you see on the horizon there, the Brandberg Mountain, and that's where I'm heading. But look, you can also see, it looks like running to it, there's like a band of green. You see that? And that probably means there's a river there, and the river means hopefully water. So that's the route I'm going to take to it.
But getting to the Brandberg Mountain means crossing over 60 miles of the world's most treacherous desert. There's no way you can make it without finding water, so use nature to help you.
You can see all these animal tracks here. And these are probably springbok, maybe oryx, but they're all after one thing, and that's water. But look, you can actually see here, look, you see that? See where they converge, coming together and leading off. So this is a definite sign that I'm heading the right way. Well, it's not the Mississippi, but this dry riverbed actually will have thousands of gallons of water running deep underneath. But it's too deep for me to be able to get to. So I need to keep heading inland and try and find somewhere where I can get to the water.
Having water is everything out here. If you're dehydrated by as little as 2%, your physical abilities are impaired by 20%. But I've got to keep moving. In this situation, you need to use your thirst to motivate you. Stay still and you can fry alive in this searing heat. And keep your wits about you. The Namib Desert is riddled with danger.
Go easy, go easy. Okay, you're good there? Okay, this is a puff adder. And these are one of the most dangerous snakes in all of Africa. The reason they're dangerous is that most snakes, when you approach them, the vibrations, they move out of the way. These guys, they're fat and they're lazy. They're really well camouflaged. They'll stay until you're almost on top of them, and then they'll strike. One of the fastest strikes in the world.
It can strike in less than a second, and those fangs carry enough venom to take out 5 men. Puff adders kill more people than any other African snake, and this is a big one. One bite and you'll either die from instant anaphylactic shock or gangrene as the hemotoxin rots your body tissue. You've got no more than 4 days to get help, and there's not much chance of that if you're alone out here.
But he's gonna be lunch.
The venom in the fangs remains active for hours, even days.
You want to be careful of the head even after it's off. Look, you see the fangs on that? They're like little kind of hypodermics, but they're still capable of killing you, even now.
The safest thing is to bury it. But there's plenty of meat on the body. It's 60% protein, and that means energy.
My heart's really racing. But you know, puff adder like this, even with the guts and skin on, you can eat them straight like this.
But it's even better cooked. So I'm gonna make a classic bush oven. But first, I'll need to light a fire and let it die down.
It's a really simple, primitive technique for cooking this snake. If I just clear these embers away, dig down into the sand, make a bit of a pit, and then just get the snake and like coil it in. You know, guts and everything, skin, and then just cover that in the hot sand. And what happens is that the skin protects the meat of the snake.
Pushing the embers back on top ensures there's a high steady heat to cook the puff adder. About half an hour should do it.
And this should be cooked now. I can actually hear it just sizzling under the embers here. You hear that? Snake a la Namibia. Let's try it. And for a snake that's so aggressive and lethal, it doesn't half taste like sweet and delicious.
But don't eat too much. If you're dehydrated, digestion burns fluid you can't afford to lose. Eat just a little and then get moving. You've got to find water.
Now, you might think this is just a cactus, but you'd be wrong. These things are deadly.
I'm in the Namib Desert in West Africa, following a dried up riverbed and heading towards the Brandberg mountain to find water. I've got a week of challenges to show you how to get out alive from one of the hottest, emptiest and driest places on the planet. And there are always reminders of just how tough it is out here.
Look, you see, there's been a real scuffle and a fight around here. The victim's been dragged, look, through the sand here, down to this corner, and this is it, like a little springbok. Oh, really stinks. But this is probably a leopard, just sort of place they like. Lots of little kind of caves with them, and the leopard would go straight into its soft underbelly, drink the blood, the soft organs, and then all that's left is this kind of rotting carcass. But this is too far gone for me. Whoa, there's a little beetle. See that? Not exactly a nice bit of springbok, but there's nothing on this carcass for me. And really, I don't want to hang around if there's leopard around here. Okay.
Leopards are one of Africa's stealthiest killers, and they have attacked people. I've got to get moving, but keeping my energy levels up is a real battle. You can survive without food for 14 days, but coping with the hunger is hard work. But in this barren desert, there's something that can help you.
I know a few people who could do with a bit of this cactus. It's called a hoodia, and it's like a natural appetite suppressant. And you know, bushmen have used this for thousands of years as a way of keeping their hunger at bay. And what you do, if you get in, get some of this sap,
Man, super bitter. It's like just drinking neat mosquito repellent. But, you know, in a survival situation where you've got limited amount of water, you really don't want to be eating a lot. It's just going to dehydrate you further. So something like this can really help you.
But in this environment, what you need more than anything is water. By noon, the temperature's scorching. It's like being cooked alive. Out here, your skin can burn within just 20 minutes. And if your core temperature rises dangerously high, you'll get heat stroke. I've been out since first light, and I really need some shelter.
Really, man, it's searingly hot out there, you know. It's probably over 110 degrees. But it's also a dangerous sort of heat. So you have this wind, so as soon as you sweat, it dries it. And then you just dehydrate more. So really, you've got to try and find shade like this. And just take a bit of time to recharge your batteries.
This isn't wasted time. Use it to plan your next move. Resting up is crucial for survival, but I soon want to be on the move again to find water. I'm following a dried up riverbed and the signs are getting good. There are some plants here, and that can only mean one thing.
You can see all of this water. This is where it's coming from. It's like a spring. And you know, this is the last thing you'd expect to find out here in the middle of the desert. Yeah, but sometimes when you think things are too good to be true, they are. All of this around me, all of this white, is salt. And I can tell you that this... that is so salty. Much saltier than seawater. So all of this is undrinkable.
It could be lethal. As water permeates through the rock, it becomes salinated by rock minerals. And just like seawater, you mustn't drink it. It'll just dehydrate you even more. Out here, thirst will be your constant companion. And if you're thirsty, you're already dehydrated. You need water, but don't be tricked by nature.
You might think this is a cactus, but you'd be wrong. This is actually a euphorbia, and these things are deadly. Look, if I get into this, see all of that white milky sap coming out? And yeah, as a general rule of thumb, anything with a white milky sap you want to keep well away from, but this especially, this stuff literally has been known to kill people. One of our crew got a tiny little bit on his finger, and a bit later on he's sweating, went to wipe his forehead, got a little bit in his eye, and really almost blinded him.
Even when it's dead, euphorbia's a killer. I've heard about some travellers who used dead branches to make a fire. Toxins seeped into the smoke, which poisoned their food, and the next morning, all 16 of them were dead. But there is a plant that can be a lifesaver.
This is a little dollar bush, and they're called dollars because look, these leaves look a little bit like coins. And you know, sometimes when you're in a place it looks so parched and dry you think there's no water, but there is if you know where to look. And these plants are actually a really good source of fluid. And it tastes really bitter. You'd think it's not drinkable, but it is.
I've spent all my time in the desert looking for water, but soon I'll be trying to avoid it.
Flash floods are one of the most dangerous things in the desert.
And I'm going to make sure I'm not caught in one. I'm in Namibia, in West Africa, heading inland towards the Brandberg mountain. I'm in some of the toughest desert in the world, and so far the only water I've found has been undrinkable. This area usually only gets about 2 inches of rainfall a year, so these mud patches in the dried up riverbed could be good news.
Seeing a lot more signs of water now, but in many ways there shouldn't be this much here. You know, all I've had out here is just blue skies and this burning heat. What all of this probably means though is that somewhere inland there's been a lot of rain and probably a flash flood's run through here.
No one knows when a flash flood will strike, but just an hour of rain in the mountains can create a tidal wave in the riverbeds, sweeping away anything in its path. I should be able to find water in what was once a dust bowl.
You see all of these animal tracks all over the ground here. And this is obviously where they come to drink when the river's in flood. You can see, look, the ground is still quite moist. I reckon if I dig down here, I might well get water. Okay, I'm getting to water now. Here you go, come have a look at this.
It's 18 inches underground and it's full of dirt, but I can sort that.
Okay, I've got some grass. And in the middle of this, got a bit of what they call bushman grass.
It's a technique used by the sand bushmen. The grass will filter out the worst of the dirt and sediment. The bushman grass is hollow, so I can use it to suck up the water.
Yeah, still dirty, but it's rehydrating and good.
I'm going to set up camp for the night, but I need to find somewhere that can keep me out of trouble. I'm about 30 foot up, and I think I've found just the place.
It's quite a narrow ledge, but I reckon if I can clear away a bit of the sand and dig a little bit of a trench, because I want to make sure I'm not going to fall off this.
It's narrow, but at least it's high and it's flat, well out of reach of floods and predators.
Need to go and get some firewood. Easier coming up than down.
My scavenging back on the Skeleton Coast is gonna come in useful.
I've got this rope that I found on the beach. I knew this would come in handy. I can use this to wrap around this bundle of wood and haul it up to that ledge. But it's not going to be long enough like this. But if I just unravel it, I should be able to make it reach.
I need to try and get this wood up to my camp and get a fire going as soon as I can, because the sun is disappearing fast.
Okay, let's get a fire going. You know, sometimes this can be so easy, and sometimes it can be so hard. And it's always hardest at the end of the day, you know, when you're tired. Do you know what? I can't remember it taking so long.
30 foot up on a narrow ledge is a nerve-wracking place to spend the night.
It's about 2 a.m. in the morning. I'm just finding it hard to sleep, so I keep thinking I'm going to fall out of this little rock shelf I'm on about 30 foot above this river. But I've come up with a really clever solution. That rope I used to haul all my logs up, just tied it around my waist. Hopefully that's going to stop me falling off. And now I'm trying to get some sleep.
Tomorrow, I've got to tackle the highest peak in Namibia.
Out of the frying pan, into the fire.
The treacherous Brandberg Mountain.
Whew.
I'm in the Namibian desert. I've spent the night 30 foot up a cliff on a narrow ledge, keeping out of the way of flash floods and predators.
Morning, guys. Well, not a bad night, in the sense that I didn't fall off.
My next challenge is to tackle the Brandberg Mountain. But before I head off, I'm going to have one of my more unusual breakfasts.
You get animals here, things like the rock dassie, which is like a kind of big guinea pig. And all of this stuff here is dassie droppings. The Bushmen actually used to take all this dassie poo and make tea. God only knows what this tea is going to taste like. As every Englishman knows, you've got to let a good cup of tea brew. Okay, let's give this a try. Apparently it's meant to be detoxifying and good for the kidneys. But working on the principle that things that are good for you generally taste pretty bad, this has got to be very, very healthy. I wonder how they came up with this.
But at least I've got some fluids on board. Now to tackle the mountain. And at over 8,500 feet, it's the highest in Namibia.
It's a bit of a climb ahead, but it's amazing. These things, I tell you, from a distance, they look like kind of tiny little pebbles, but they are massive.
The Brandberg rose through the Earth's crust some 530 million years ago. The harsh climate and baking heat has shattered the rock, creating steep fields of boulders, some as big as houses. They're flaky and treacherous to climb. My only way up is over and through them.
This place, it's like being right in the kind of bowels of the mountain, and it's all just balancing on itself. Kind of precarious place to be. Let's move out of this. This small one is holding up this massive one. Don't touch this one. Well, you can see where I've been, and you can also see where I'm going. Just feels a little bit like out of the frying pan into the fire.
This rock is at least 40 degrees hotter than the air. Your pain threshold kicks in at 130. This has got to be around 150 or more.
It's this black stuff, the black rock, that's really hot. It's like holding a hand on a hot oven.
This face is pretty sheer, and I'm 200 foot up it. One slip could be fatal.
Problem is, look, all of this stuff. You think it's a handhold? Wow.
I'm off the cliff face, and I'm on my way to the top. From here, it feels as though all Namibia is stretched out beneath me. Now I'm heading east to meet the San Bushmen. The San are hunter-gatherers who've lived in some of the world's harshest environments for over 20,000 years. They're masters of survival, and I want to learn some of their secrets. I've seen for myself how hard it can be to get water out here, but the San know where to find it, even when it hasn't rained for months.
When there's drought around here, this will always have water in it. It's a tuber.
There's at least a cupful of water in this goa plant, but if you didn't know what you were looking for, you'd walk straight past it.
Squeeze it. All of that's good to drink.
The knowledge of which plants will kill you and which will save your life has been passed down from generation to generation. When it does rain, any drop that hasn't evaporated on this marula tree won't escape the sand. Just by tapping the trunk, they detect where it might be. And they'll always have some bushman grass to drink it with.
There's water just trapped in the hollow of the tree up there. That's great, Lee's just drinking it straight out. Good. Here, pass that camera. If I just scoop this stuff out. That's fresh water.
If finding water is tough, finding food can be even tougher. But the San will go to any lengths to get it, no matter how dangerous it might be.
He's got all his things out.
I'm in Namibia, facing the final challenge of a grueling week. I'm going hunting with the San Bushmen. These guys know the track and trail of every animal that lives here, and there's one in particular that they're after today. They've tracked down a huge porcupine, and they're trying to dig it out from its burrow.
These guys have brought out their heavy machinery to try and get to this porcupine that's somewhere under here. But they're quite big, these things, you know.
Porcupines have been known to kill lions. They can grow up to 3 foot long. They've got an armory of quills and spines that are a foot or more in length, bristling with harmful bacteria. And to the San, they're a delicacy.
So if I hit him, he'll probably run out and try and spike me with these. Okay, well if you hear me shout, pull me out.
I will try to protect you there.
Okay, just jump in as well.
Armed with a camera and a torch, I inch my way in. Porcupine burrows can be 60 foot long and deep underground.
It's amazing, there's just loads of bats stuck to the roof of this tunnel. There's a lot of digging to do. It's a big tunnel down there, I'll tell you, it's like big.
It's taken 8 hours to dig this deep. A huge amount of effort to catch just one meal. But that's the reality of life as a hunter-gatherer.
Whoa. Get him, get him!
Yeah. Let's have a look. Okay.
Yes.
Let's see if we can see him.
We've yet to see how big he actually is. But one thing I do know is that a cornered animal is dangerous. Especially one with spikes.
It's okay? Yeah, you're still going?
I tell you, it's quite creepy down there. You can just hear this thing right down the end of this tunnel. And with this, you can really feel him. Do you hear that? He's got all his things out.
The porcupine is ready to fight to the death. Its tail spines are up and they're rattling as a warning. But first of all, I've got to get him out in the open.
To pull it out from the...
What, you want me to reach in? Let's go, so you want me to reach in there, pull this thing out by its legs?
Yes.
You've got to be, listen, you've got to be having a laugh. I'd no sooner do battle with that blooming great big porcupine with those quills in this tight tunnel. Okay, well, I'll give it a go, we'll see. Can they run very fast?
No.
Hey, look, come down with me. Let's have that torch, because the torch, it's nice to know when certain death is coming. I'm quite pleased that he's as scared as I am, and this thing's sprinting out of this hole with those spikes waving. We've got some of his spikes anyway.
But it's time to finish this, and it's left to me to get this thing out of its hole and killed. It's brutal, but for the San, when it comes to survival, there's no room for sentiment. If they don't kill, they don't eat. Spending time with the San and learning some of their survival secrets has been a huge privilege. Namibia is one of the toughest places I've ever been in, and the quest for water can test you to your limits. But it's been an experience that will remain with me forever.